Hi, my name is Joshua Hutchison. Today I'd like to talk to you about Sweden and its communication style. When people think of Sweden, they often envision snow-capped mountain peaks, ice, and frigid temperatures. But the way that people communicate there might be different than you expect. In our culture, many of us are used to filling the silence with small talk. But in Sweden, it's actually a normal and comfortable part of communication. Today, I'll be talking about Swedish culture with a focus on how communication reflects those core values. Now, I've done some research on Swedish communication using peer-reviewed journal articles and cultural analysis sources like Cross Culture to Go, the Open Journal of Social Sciences, and the Journal of Pragmatics. Understanding how people communicate in different cultures can help us avoid misunderstandings and become more effective in everyday communication, in our social interactions, and in professional settings. I think everyone could benefit from being a better communicator overall. Today, I'll explain how Swedish communication reflects equality in the workplace through consensus, how it tends to be brief and practical through efficiency, and how it often uses indirect language and subtle cues to stop conflict by avoiding that outright rejection. Swedish communication reflects a strong cultural emphasis on equality and consensus through discussion in decision making. Now, according to the article, Communication Across Culture in the Workplace, Swimming in Scandinavian Waters, published in the Open Journal of Social Sciences in 2023, by Langes and Mujtaba, Swedish workplace communication emphasizes equality, consensus, and indirect interaction. Decisions are often made through discussions and agreement rather than quick top-down direction. People are encouraged to share input, regardless of their individual positions in the workplace or in the group. As a result, this gives us greater diversity in thought, which promotes equality. For example, managers are typically seen as part of the team rather than just authority figures waiting on that report or project to be delivered when finished. The managers are active participants in the discussions. And because of this, meetings may take longer as input is gathered from multiple people and then refined by the group before a final decision is made. Now, this approach reflects a cultural preference for fairness and shared responsibility. And as a result, conflict can also be reduced, since this style of communication allows people to feel heard before decisions are finalized. I know that I like to be heard. I feel like everybody communicates better when we feel that way. Now, this focus on thoughtful and inclusive communication also connects to how Swedish people keep conversations simple and purposeful. Swedish communication is often brief, it's practical, and avoids unnecessary small talk. My personal favorite style. According to Jan Lindström and other contributing authors in the Journal of Pragmatics, there was a study that was published in 2020 called What is in a Greeting? Swedish service greetings were described as brief, practical, and reflecting a cultural preference for being straightforward without all the unnecessary small talk. Conversations tend to focus on purpose rather than extended social interaction. As a result, communication can feel more efficient compared to other cultures. When out and about in town, we're not necessarily talking about those close quarter communications between close friends and family. For example, consider a daily interaction at a local coffee shop. Instead of engaging socially with a barista, the interaction may feel brief or even somewhat reserved. However, this isn't intended to be rude, but rather efficient in nature. Because of this, more important information can be exchanged within the limited time the interaction may allow. Now, this communication style reflects broader cultural value of efficiency and clarity throughout. As a result, Swedish people tend to prioritize meaningful conversations over filler or excess inserted in those tactical pauses. Along with people being direct and efficient, the Swedish communication style also reflects and relies on subtle and indirect ways of expressing disagreement. Swedish communication often uses indirect language and subtle cues to maintain politeness. Now, in an article, Communication in Sweden, From Cross Culture to Grow, From Cross Culture to Go, accessed in March of 2026, and based on the book Business Culture Sweden, Swedish communication often relies on indirect language, subtle cues, and a culturally understood no, where disagreement is expressed politely rather than directly. Now, how do we do that? We favor more subtle and indirect responses. As a result, this approach helps maintain harmony and avoid unnecessary conflict. For example, someone might say, maybe, or hesitate rather than saying no outright. This creates a more respectful tone, even when there's a disagreement. This indirect style works alongside cultural value of equality. Because of this, people are able to express disagreement without directly challenging others. This creates a much more harmonious atmosphere. It's balanced, even when opinions differ. The polite atmosphere seems to be the shared goal between everyone involved. And as we think about everything that I've brought to your screen, and we step back and take in what I've covered here, Swedish communication reflects a strong emphasis on equality through consensus. It's often brief and practical, and it relies on indirect language to maintain politeness. In a world where silence is often seen as something that needs to be filled, Sweden reminds us that silence itself is a powerful tool. It helps us say more by leaving out the unnecessary and focusing on what truly matters, and that's connecting with others. Thank you.